Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. It's bright and early here today, so I hope you don't mind getting the shadows on Bugsy. She's in a barky mood as well, but we do have the mic back attached, so it shouldn't be quite as bad as yesterday's video. Guys, we've got a lot to get through in today's transfer news, views and clues, and not that much time to do it. I don't want to take up an hour of your time, so let's begin. But before we do that, can you do me a favor? If possible, can you please hit the like button for me on the video like you always do? I think the last time before my 4-day break, the video then did 2,500 likes. Just absolutely mind-bogglingly, sensationally generous of you. I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you so much. It really does help the channel out. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already as well on the march to 26K. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. And look, we've got a couple of sort of new names that I haven't seen linked to Tottenham. I don't believe I've seen linked to Tottenham recently. And they're interesting names because they come from very good stock. Let's start with the first one, Jobe Bellingham. Not his brother Jude Bellingham. He's 18 years old, currently playing for Sunderland, had a very good season, 7 goals and an assist. Can play similar to his brother almost, in that he can play pretty much anywhere from the midfield all the way up. He's a good goal scorer and a technically gifted player. In fact, look, I'll be entirely honest with you, that the superlatives I'm about to read off are not my own. I haven't had the chance to look at him on the Y-Scout tool today. And if I'm entirely honest, I didn't really give Sunderland that much attention last year. So, you know, my familiarity with him on an eye test basis is not spectacular. But the players that have played with him have said to, have called him one of the most technically gifted 18-year-olds they have ever seen. A physical beast. They've never seen a player of his age with his physicality and his overall his strength, his body weight, his pace, and the combination for someone so young has been unseen before, according to these players. So look, he looks like and sounds like a really good player. Obviously, he's going to have the millstone around his neck of being Jude Bellingham's brother, and you know, will he ever be able to live up to that guy's reputation or expectation? You'd probably assume, obviously not. But if they came from the same stock, then they have the same genes. And, you know, as long as the mindset is right, the mentality is correct, then there's no reason why he can't become a fantastic player. What I do find interesting about this is there's no bid, there's no sort of number attached to the offer that would be required to get him. He scored 7 goals and 1 assist, as I said last season. This has come from The Guardian as well, by the way, and The Guardian are not exactly a newspaper that just make things up willy-nilly. They're not like other ragtops. They at least have a little bit of journalistic integrity. They say that Brentford and Palace and Aston Villa are all sniffing around as well. So it could be that there's a bit of a bidding war that might emerge for this youngster from around the teams that are, first of all, that probably need someone in the midfield, but more importantly, and I think this is the most important takeaway for me right now, I'm seeing so many teams that are in that mid-table European spot area trying to make a move towards, you know, the better end of the Premier League. But because of PSR rules, excuse me one second, because of PSR rules and FFP and this current situation where this year particularly you have 2 competing different sets of rules, one from the previous set, which is loss-based accounting, one from the new set, which is more around UEFA. I think you have a lot of players, a lot of teams that are needing to go young. They need to look young because it's the only way that they can go and afford players. And obviously you're taking on risk because they may not all necessarily reach their potential. But if you hope, you know, 2 out of the 6 that you buy become top class players, then you'll make your money back on the sale in the future anyway. And it seems like it's an emerging strategy, not just at Tottenham, that's been around for a couple of years, but most clubs now are almost forced into doing it. Now, to me, when this idea of PSR, squad cost ratios, was coming in, it felt like it was supposed to have a deflationary aspect to the market where you wouldn't be seeing £105 million, £110 million transfers. You wouldn't be seeing the sorts of things like what you saw with Mbappe this week. Was it £87 million signing on fee? It's a madness, right? That has to go against, obviously, Real Madrid's PSR. I never know the Spanish league, how seriously they take those rules, or whether anyone's ever held accountable. But in a nutshell, rather than having the intended consequence of deflating the market for the top end players, and it might still do that anyway, we'll have to wait and see. There hasn't really been any top end transfers this summer so far. But what you're seeing instead is that most clubs are going into bidding wars for high class, high caliber potential, and you might end up seeing an inflation in those particular markets for players that are really not necessarily that good, or really not going to work out to the same degree that you hope. So an interesting kind of thought process there. But like I say, Jobe Bellingham, they haven't put a price on him, but 18 years old, a lot of teams are looking at him, and the superlatives that are coming out of the club, the players about him are just that he's an incredibly special looking guy. And that is enough about Jobe Bellingham. It's enough out of you, Bugsy. You're trying to be, I thought you're supposed to be good today. Right, now let's move on to the second story, guys. Everton, another team, another player that you're probably going to be underwhelmed with, but if you like versatility, and we know Ange does, then this one probably makes sense. Also, he is homegrown, and I think that Tottenham, the more and more I think about it, the more and more links we're seeing to homegrown players throughout. We've got a couple more we're going to mention throughout this show. The more I think that Tottenham have got intentions to move some of the homegrown players on that we currently have, and that's going to leave us short. And so we're trying to replace homegrown for homegrown, but obviously level up the quality at the same time. This particular player, Everton's James Garner, 23 years old, can play on the left, can play on the right, can play as a DCM, can play as an 8. In terms of versatility, he is your guy. 41 starts for Everton last season, an absolute mainstay for them. I think only Pickford played in more games. He cost Everton £15 million a couple of seasons ago. Didn't do too well in terms of output, 1 goal and 2 assists in the league. But as a player, I think he's generally thought of by Everton fans. I spoke to an Everton fan, my friend Mike, about him a couple of months ago. And he believes that James Garner is kind of up there with Jared Branthwaite in terms of future leaders of the team, future potential, if we can keep hold of him. And he doesn't think we will be able to keep hold of James Garner. And maybe this is all the first demonstrations, guys, of Daniel Levy, as I said a couple of weeks ago, trying to lean into teams that have, or that he can have leverage over. We know that he likes a zero-sum game negotiation style where someone has to win and someone has to lose. And for him to win, leverage is key. And in the case of Everton, with 777 partners and the problems that they have, that whole deal for the takeover has just fallen through. We don't know whether or not MSP Capital is going to take over the stadium, and if they do, then that would basically put an end to any chance of Tottenham having an investment from them, unless it was less than 10%. And if it's less than 10%, then what's the point? I'm rambling. Let's get off that point. So James Garner is the link just because of the versatility. Maybe he'd be the guy that would be replacing like an Emerson Royal in terms of the ability to play in a couple of different places over the pitch. But like I say, a DCM as well and a number 8. So if you like versatility, then 4 positions covered is pretty impressive. The next up is another one who's versatile, Conor Gallagher, 24 years old. We know all about Conor Gallagher. This particular story is that Aston Villa are trying to gazump us. The story has been that Tottenham are very much interested in Conor Gallagher for so long. We all know this. I go back and forth with you about whether I want him or not. He's had a good season, 7 goals and 9 assists. But Ben Jacobs says £50 million will be the number. He thinks he'll go to Tottenham, and the Aston Villa bid or deal won't necessarily be able to match it. They might have been able to match it with regards a transfer kitty, but unfortunately Aston Villa's wage to turnover ratio is too high, and of course Conor Gallagher would come in with a significant wage, and so he doesn't think that there's any chance of that particular one happening. But the rest of the stories out in the media are saying that Conor Gallagher is now the subject of a bidding war between Tottenham and Aston Villa, and that Tottenham are expected to make a bid this week or next. The next stories for you guys, Dominic Solanke and Ivan Toney. This again coming from Ben Jacobs, I believe, who's saying that those are the 2 that make the most sense from, excuse me, from Tottenham striker pursuit perspective. We've gone through all the links before with Benjamin Sesko and Goy Carez and Santiago Jimenez. I mentioned very briefly on yesterday's show that Santiago Jimenez apparently has said yes to Tottenham. He really wants to come over and play in the Premier League. But these reports are saying there's a lot of risk with those particular deals, and Tottenham need the homegrown players. And so on that basis, Ivan Toney, Solanke, Conor Gallagher, James Garner, Jobe Bellingham, are you hearing a trend here? Are you hearing a trend? I don't know if any of these are have much substance to them, but they all do ring the same bell, which tells me that maybe players like Ollie Skipp are going to be let go this summer. Players like Ryan Sessegnon will be released this summer. Maybe there'll be a goalkeeper movement in Alfie Whiteman, considering that Brandon Austin just got his new contract. Sorry guys, I'm losing my voice a little bit. But we've still got a few more topics to go to, and it gets a bit more exciting here. Do you remember I told you the other day that I'd done my simple mathematics and that I thought that the transfer budget this summer in terms of PSR wiggle room, excuse me one second, would be about 110, 120 million. Give or take 10% is what I said. Well, articles are coming out today from Football Insider saying that Tottenham have got £134 million, according to their calculations, £134 million headroom in the PSR stakes. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we are going to spend, but that's what we could spend according to them. They also acknowledge that there's a deviation around that that's reasonable, that you have to bake in because of the players that have left the club and the players that have joined the club on various different wages and various different bonus structures since the 22-23 accounts that were the most recent accounts were released. So your man here wasn't too far off. As I say, it doesn't take a lot to figure it out. All you've got to do is just punch in the rules to PSR and then go and look at a few line items on the financial results of Tottenham Hotspur, and we can get an idea of the budgets. And I would say, I still think he's a little bit high. I think that Tottenham will spend net 120, something like that, and then whatever we get in sales. In terms of sales, Japhet Tanganga has come out and said that he's very much looking forward to working with Millwall, so we hope that's done. Joe Rodon is still looking like it's moving to Leeds, so we hope that's done very soon. Lo Celso to Real Betis. Apparently, the conversations are taking place, but they're just being delayed a little bit. The same goes for Brian Hill's move to Spain. I think both teams in Spain are basically saying there's a lot of interest, but the timing of it is a little bit difficult right now. But guys, who cares about the outgoings for the time being? Let's focus on the incomings, because the last story that's out today, there's two more stories out for you today, and one of them is about Alex Isak. The Swedish international striker for Newcastle United can play a little bit of everywhere. Remember, Tottenham, Fabrizio Romano last week said that Tottenham now are looking for a striker and who can also play as a wingman, so like a very versatile player who is capable up front in the nine, capable doing all the things that a nine needs to do, but also has the competencies of being a take-on specialist. And you know, when you're filtering like that, when you're filtering out specific number nines to just general forwards, but you also want the highest caliber, there's really not that many out there that are too desirable, and those that will be very expensive. But if you're only looking to buy one rather than two, then you can afford to spend double, right? That's how I see it. And Alex Isak is the link today in 2 or 3 different places, saying Tottenham are not giving up hope of signing Alex Isak from Newcastle. Newcastle would probably want a fortune for him. They may need to sell one of him or Bruno Guimaraes. Now, we know Arsenal think that they're top of the list of priorities if that was to happen, but I don't know, a boy can dream. I personally don't see it happening, but it's been shared around by enough people for me to sit there and say, whilst it's probably nonsense, it's worthwhile bringing the nonsense to you. 25 goals and 2 assists in 40 games. This guy is, for me, one of the better wingers. Even though he's not a winger, he can play as one of the better wingers in the Premier League all day long. And as a finisher, he's one of the best. He's strong, he's quick, he's great in the air. He's Swedish as well, and we've got the Swedish house mafia that we're starting to build at Tottenham. Could that be an influential part of the story? We just don't know. What about Johan Langer and his connections out into Scandinavia? Is there anything that can be pulled on that deal? If we could get that done, and the Eberechi essay, everything feels okay for me just about then. The last two is actually two pairs of brothers from Rennes. And I'm sure you've heard of one of them, Desiree Doué, the 19-year-old winger / forward. And his brother, I think it's Guela, who's 21, who plays more of a right back. They both played most games this season. Desiree got 4 goals and 4 assists as a 19-year-old. One of the hottest prospects in terms of attractive on the eye dribblers in European football. And I mean, I'd be very surprised if there was anything to materialise about this. Apparently, Desiree is valued at 35 million. They haven't even bothered giving Gavela a price on the article. But apparently, it says that we're interested in signing both, which is, I don't know, does that sound legit to you? It doesn't sound to me. But their strengths are obviously, I mean, in terms of Desiree, it's mainly his dribbling, his finishing, his confidence, and his trickery, his quick feet and amazing technical skills. A very, very talented player that I do expect to go on to very big things. Although, is he going to come to Tottenham? Are we looking in that direction right now? I'd be surprised, but if we were, I'd really like it, because, you know, I don't mind us going for the young players as long as they're not young with potential. To me, I need to see more young with, like, wins in the bag, you know, skins in the game. And there's still a lot of those out there as well, but you just have to pay for it. And as I say, this PSR, FFP, the intention was to bring deflationary aspects to the transfer market and to the salaries that players are getting paid. It hasn't happened. All that you're seeing instead is a change of focus towards teams that are now looking at youth everywhere, and then bidding wars emerge for those players, and then those players can command higher salaries. So all you're doing is closing the gap between the kids and the established, rather than bringing it back to a normal level to try and bring back some sense of reality to the way that football is run. It doesn't necessarily make any sense to me, but that's just business, that's just logic. And if people, you know, want the best for their football clubs, they're always going to go out there and try and find the best talent. And, you know, all that, like I said at the start, all they need is maybe 2 or 3 of the 7 or 8 risks that they take to work out, and they'll have made all their money back and a hell of a lot more. Guys, that is your stories for today. Let me know all of your thoughts. Jobe Bellingham, are you into him? Like I say, apparently he's very good, but I haven't watched enough of him to really give you any concrete stuff. James Garner, big fan. I've got friends that are massive fans of his. Versatile and a utility player, but does he really excite you? Does he really excite you, another Everton player? Not for me. If we were going to get anyone from that particular part of the world, I'd like to go and get the man Jared Branthwaite. But the homegrown story here seems like it's the big trend, right? Conor Gallagher, Solanke, Ivan Toney, and yeah, that's about it. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I might even do a live stream later on to catch up with you guys then. Bugsy, shut up. You're annoying me. Love you guys. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And as always, come on, you Spurs.